Here's what's coming up. Violence in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo forces families to flee their homes, with many seeking refuge in neighboring Rwanda. U.S. President Donald Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship in the U.S. triggers a legal and political debate about the 14th Amendment and executive power. And a Zambian inventor's relentless spirit culminates in creating the stainless steel stove and a range of other household products that redefine efficiency. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. The United Nations says advancing M23 rebels have captured large parts of eastern Congo's largest city of Goma, including its airport. Rwanda's President Paul Kagame, meanwhile, joined calls for a ceasefire amid mounting international pressure. Much of Goma was calm Wednesday after a day during which thousands of fleeing people hunkered down by roadsides as missiles flew overhead and injured people streamed to overwhelmed hospitals. Government forces still control pockets of Goma. Kagame spoke with the new U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who stressed that the U.S. is deeply troubled by escalation of the ongoing conflict, particularly the fall of Goma to the M23 rebels. Secretary Rubio urged an immediate ceasefire in the region and for all parties to respect sovereign territorial integrity. Violence in eastern Congo is forcing many families to flee their homes, with many seeking refuge in neighboring Rwanda. As the humanitarian crisis worsens, East African leaders are urging immediate action to bring peace and stability to the region. Salem Solomon has more.
Gunshots echo through Goma, one of the largest cities in the Democratic Republic of Congo, as terrified civilians scramble for safety. The city and its surrounding regions are the latest epicenter of a conflict between the Congolese army and the Rwanda-backed M23 rebel group, although Kigali denies its support for the group. This increase in violence has displaced thousands of people and prompted urgent regional diplomatic efforts led by the current chair of the East African Community, Kenyan President William Ruto, to address the crisis.
And we are all in agreement that now more than ever, it is an existential issue, not just for the people of Eastern DRC, but for this region. The situation in Eastern DRC now demands our collective focus.
The conflict is part of a broader war in Eastern DRC, where more than 120 militants and armed groups operate, often competing for control of the area's rich mines. North Kivu province, a long-standing flashpoint, has seen a surge in fighting, forcing people like Lomu Biondo Manuel to flee repeatedly.
We face a lot of hardship. We want to go back to our region.
Another woman fleeing Mugwanga, one of the largest camps for displaced people near Goma, says civilians are caught in the crossfire.
We have nothing to give to our children that we are running with. We are just playing with nothing. It's all in God's hands. All we can do is run.
The United Nations says more than 5.5 million people are displaced in the DRC, many of them in North Kivu. Humanitarian organizations warn that the situation is deteriorating rapidly. Aid delivery has been disrupted by blocking routes and increased violence, leaving many without basic needs, says Save the Children's country director Greg Brown.
This upsurge in fighting has killed children. Children have been caught up in it, killed through explosions. In addition, hundreds of thousands, 200,000 children displaced from where they're living, some displaced for a second and third time.
Humanitarian agencies say the needs far outweigh the available resources, and displacement isn't the only issue that children, women, and girls face in displacement camps, Ram says.
Sexual violence against women, girls, children is a serious problem. Rape is a weapon of war. Displaced people's camps can be terribly unsafe places. The numbers are overwhelming. And for each person we can help, and that the rest of the humanitarian community can help. We know that there are tens of others who are not getting the assistance they need today.
Despite calls for the UN and East African leaders for a ceasefire, the violence continues, leaving millions in limbo. Salim Solomon, VOA News.
The East African community, whose members include both Rwanda and Congo, are scheduled to discuss the conflict at a meeting on Wednesday. However, Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi won't be able to participate in the virtual summit, according to a spokesperson. He did not provide further details. For more insight, we will be joined by Declan Galvin shortly. So we're going to move on to the next report. Turning now to a hot topic in the United States, President Donald Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship in America has created a firestorm debate about the 14th Amendment and executive power. The 14th Amendment guarantees citizenship to anyone born on U.S. soil, a principle that has been central to civil rights since its ratification in 1868. Experts say that makes the executive order legally questionable. VOA's immigration correspondent Elaine Barrows explains.
The U.S. Constitution, drafted in the late 18th century, left much of the decision-making regarding immigration and citizenship to Congress. But President Donald Trump has signed an executive order ending birthright citizenship in the United States.
We're the only country in the world that does this with birthright, as you know. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. But, you know, we'll see. We have very good grounds. People have wanted to do this for decades.
Critics of Trump's executive order say the 14th Amendment is a cornerstone of civil rights and cannot be pulled away by a U.S. president.
Originally, it was to ensure that Black slaves were able to get citizenship, and this is enshrined in Dred Scott, the case. And constitutional amendments cannot, and constitutional rights cannot be taken away by a president. They can only be taken away by Congress, and thus the executive order is illegal.
However, supporters of the executive order argue it is necessary to restore fairness in the immigration system.
President Trump has made it clear that restoring fairness to our immigration system and defending the true intent of the 14th Amendment are central to his vision of making America great again. His historic executive order to end birthright citizenship marks a critical step forward.
The executive order faces significant legal challenges, with multiple lawsuits already in progress. Democratic attorneys general from 22 states have filed lawsuits arguing the order violates the 14th Amendment.
The Supreme Court reaffirmed it in a case where a lot of Chinese immigrants' citizenship was disputed, and the court reaffirmed that the 14th Amendment applied to these Chinese immigrants and they were able to get citizenship.
A federal judge in Seattle temporarily stopped the birthright citizenship order from taking place. If the case reaches the Supreme Court, the outcome could shape the nation's understanding of citizenship. If the order is allowed to move forward, the most immediate impact will be on newborns and those yet to receive birth certificates and Social Security numbers. Aline Barrows, VOA News, Washington.
We're going to circle back to our top story on the chaos going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The East African community, whose members include both Rwanda and Congo, are scheduled to discuss the conflict at a meeting on Wednesday. However, Congolese President, as we said, Felix Tshisekedi won't be able to participate in the virtual summit, according to a spokesperson. He did not provide further details, but for insight into the M23 rebel group advancing to Bukavu after capturing most of Goma, I'm joined live from Nairobi by Declan Galvin, Managing Director of the Exigent Risk Advisory Firm and political analyst. Declan, the M23 rebels seem to have the upper hand, having taken control of the airport in Goma. They have advanced to Bukavu. What do you think their ultimate goal is? I think we dropped. All right, we've lost him again. So we're going to move on to Colombia's president has tussled by a tweet with President Trump, eventually pulling back from the cusp of a trade war after the White House insisted the South American nation accept deportees as part of the president's hardline immigration push. VOA White House correspondent Anita Powell reports from Washington.
President Donald Trump's hardline position on immigration is ruffling feathers in the U.S. and further afield, as he makes a show of deporting foreign nationals back home. Guatemala accepted a group recently, but Colombian President Gustavo Petro over the weekend rejected 2 plane loads of deportees, landing him in a social media brawl with the U.S. president that escalated into insults, tariff threats from both sides, and then hours later, a capitulation, with Bogota accepting the returnees and sending the presidential plane to collect them. Trump was very clear on this issue during his campaign, his administration says.
President Trump is sending a very strong message to people around this world. If you are thinking about breaking the laws of the United States of America, you will be returned home, you will be arrested, you will be prosecuted. Do not come.
Colombia's foreign minister said a delegation would arrive in Washington in coming days to hash out this issue and others.
We will continue to receive Colombians, Colombian women, and Colombian men who return as deportees, guaranteeing them dignified conditions as citizens with rights.
When asked who won this weekend's spat, analyst Eddie Acevedo said,
I believe it is very clear that President Trump and the United States won this weekend.
It all happened very quickly and without the steady hand of diplomacy, analysts say.
The way that it came up was in the dead of night through the Twitterverse and without apparently much consultation with diplomats or foreign ministries or what have you, and it deteriorated quickly into a battle of tweets and really created anxieties and circumstances that didn't need to occur.
On the table for diplomats, experts say, is Colombia's status as a major non-NATO ally, an exporter of coffee, cut flowers, and more. And on the illegal side of the ledger, analysts note that Colombia's coca production has shot up recently, complicating the two nations' drug interdiction efforts.
Very soon, President Trump will have to make a determination regarding security and drug cooperation with Colombia. And to me, that's going to be the next red flag in the relationship.
Meanwhile, in Bogota, tensions remain. On Monday, dozens of Colombians who showed up at the U.S. Embassy were told their visa appointments were canceled. Anita Powell, VOA News, Washington.
Zimbabwe's traditional stores are struggling to stay afloat as customers flock to informal vendors to buy cheaper products amid a struggling economy. Columbus Mavunga reports from Harare.
Like other Zimbabweans, 47-year-old Edna Katio buys her groceries from informal street vendors in Harare, who usually appear after hours to avoid the police.
These shops are cheaper than conventional shops. Plus, there are no queues. You pick your items, pay, and then you leave.
Economists say traditional stores are struggling to compete with vendors because Zimbabwe's new currency, the ZiG, or Zimbabwean gold, is fixed at 26.32 against the US dollar. But the money changers say the rate is around 40 ZiG per US dollar on the black market. Street vendor Takudzwa Saki agrees.
The fixed rate makes goods expensive from traditional shops, so shoppers end up coming to buy from us vendors.
So sometimes I want to know it's too much better to eat my vendors.
Unlike informal markets, traditional shops are forced to accept the local currency. And shop owners say they must go on the black market for the US dollar to buy more stock. Economists say the Zimbabwe government is also losing important tax revenue from the informal market sales.
There is no country which is developed on the backbone of informal economy. And you get a point where you get to the government cannot have enough revenue to do government duties like your provision of education, provision of health and other stuff. So it's a failure.
Mahembe says retailers and wholesale operators are also struggling in Zimbabwe's economic environment. That includes a volatile currency and taxes, fees, and regulations that retailers say make it difficult to stay afloat.
What we are currently calling for government is to intervene, and particularly our president, Dr. Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, to rescue us from this situation that we are currently in, and rescue us of what's left of the formal retail and wholesale sector.
The Confederation of Zimbabwe Retailers has asked the government to formalize the informal sector and create a more equitable environment for all sides. Meanwhile, officials say government agencies are working to register informal vendors.
So we want to increase our tax base and make sure that the fiscus gets what is due to it. Then to make sure that we actually tap on the informal sector as well, we have put up what we call the kiosks. These kiosks are basically they've got laptops and computers where informal traders can get access to our system and register without any challenge.
All informal traders that VOA spoke with said they were not aware of such registration. Columbus Mavunga, VOA News, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Still to come, a Zambian inventor redefines household efficiency. We'll be right back.
On the next Straight Talk Africa, fighting rages in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo city of Goma as the M23 rebels enter the city and clash with the Congo military. Residents are fleeing and the humanitarian crisis is deepening. Join me, Peter Clotty, for an in-depth discussion on the crisis in Eastern Congo.
Lupus is a mysterious autoimmune disease that primarily affects women of childbearing age between 15 and 44 years. It occurs when the body's immune system produces antibodies that attack its own healthy tissues and organs. On the next edition of Our Voices, we will focus on this chronic autoimmune disease, its symptoms, its causes, and its treatment. Join the conversation each week right here on Our Voices.
In other news, an initiative to connect 300 million Africans to electricity in the next 6 years has won new pledges worth more than $8 billion from lenders, including the Islamic Development Bank and the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank. The Mission 300 initiative, launched by the World Bank and the African Development Bank in April, is projected to cost $90 billion. Security analysts in Nigeria are expressing alarm after a surge in attacks by terror groups in the country's north near the border with Niger. Deterioration of relations between Abuja and Niamey following Niger's July 2023 coup is disrupting joint military patrols, creating opportunities for armed groups to intensify incursions and attacks. Climate change is making it harder for African farmers to grow the continent's staple crop, maize. But food activists in South Africa say a return to traditional diets could help. From Johannesburg, Zahir Kasim explores the benefits of sorghum and why this indigenous African grain is disappearing from grocery shelves.
Sorghum has long been a dietary staple across Africa. The grain is native to the continent. It requires less water than maize and is packed with vitamins, minerals, fiber, antioxidants, and protein, earning it the title of a superfood. Still, South African farmers produce about 80% less sorghum than they did 30 years ago, official data shows.
When you look into the pros and cons on sorghum, we should be growing sorghum because the small-scale farmers, if you think about how many smallholder farmers we have in this country, if they were to all to grow, or majority of them were to grow, we would have enough sorghum in this country.
Food activist and chef Mokgadi Etsweng is calling for a return to traditional diets, including sorghum.
We have a connection
with sorghum that is spiritual. So if we had to go back to all eating sorghum, no one's going to eat the maize. No one's going to want, because maize is also not sustainable.
Maize is South Africa's primary staple food and its most widely grown crop, according to government data. But severe weather linked to last year's El Nino pushed up maize prices across much of southern Africa. Sorghum is far more drought tolerant and can grow on less fertile land. But sorghum production takes up more space and is more labor intensive and costly to grow, say experts. Today, sorghum is found mostly in wealthy areas and is billed as a premium product. Economists say farmers see a limited market for it.
The decisions are made by the farmers on the basis of the profitability. And in fact, if you talk to food processors, they likely want to process sorghum and put it out in the market, but they are just not seeing the mass demand for it.
Food activists say boosting demand for sorghum could spark more production and reduce costs, making this superfood a viable alternative to maize. Seri Kassem, VOA News, Johannesburg, South Africa.
A Zambian inventor is achieving unprecedented success in his field. His relentless innovative spirit has culminated in creating the stainless steel stove and a range of other household products that is redefining efficiency. He is preparing to break ground on a multi-million-dollar facility to manufacture these stoves in Zambia. Africa 54 technology correspondent Paul Ndiho joins us with more. Hello, Paul.
That's right, and thanks, Esther. Driven by the challenges faced by his community, Arnold Nyendwa took the initiative to design Zambia's first stainless steel stove that can use gas and electricity. Demonstrating his commitment to innovation, I spoke to Nyendwa, the founder and CEO of Afon, a cutting-edge stainless steel company based in Lusaka.
There's been a lot of changes that probably I did also expect with my team at Afon now, as you can see from the company name. So we have really diversified the company, being something that is doing very different things. We're setting up the largest stove factory in Africa. It's called the Landmark Factory. It will be set in the central province, Kapirimposhi of Zambia. We're looking at much groundbreaking. We have government support now. So it came with a lot of resilience because it wasn't easy to get through in terms of support and acceptance, looking at also giving the edge. So we're looking at setting up a stove factory that will be doing 1 million units. These are gas and electric stoves, starting from small plates, 1 plate, 2 plates, gas, electric, and 4 plates, bigger plates, hybrid stoves. The stove will also have the capacity to do around 12 million at its full capacity units. 1 million a month, 12 million a year, with over 2,500 to 3,000 jobs. And that's currently where we are. It will sit on 10 hectares of land. By March, after next month, we'll be talking about doing a massive groundbreaking, the largest stove factory to be set in Africa. A unique opportunity for Africans, which is also 100% Zambian-owned.
Based on what you've just told me, it takes a lot to be able to pull off something like that. What has been the cost on your end to invest in this project?
What makes this opportunity very unique, it has to do with that it's a hardware industry itself, because hardware industry takes a lot of intellectual property, designing, thinking, brainstorming, in terms of you have to take a lot of time to invest before you get to even build a machine for it. It's different with commodities. That's why up to date, Africa imports massively, over more than 10 billion plus in imports around hardware, just in the Comesa region, for instance. On product development, we did 30 to 50 designs. We had to spend close to about, with a lot of ed support, obviously, to various partners who are supporting my journey, mostly from the UK and Asia. We looked at spending close to around $1.1 million just for product development. This is before the whole entire project process. To put up the entire project process, we're looking around costing to $10 million at a full capacity operation. The whole full value around $200 million. So that's around it. Obviously, on an initial stage, we're looking around $16 million to $20 million so that we start as an initial capital.
And how much of that have you raised?
Currently, we have already spoken with the local bank. I put in equity my $2.2 million. The bank is bringing in 8.8, giving us all the total value to $10 million. That's a cowpex because there is no yet capital in it to inject it. Plus, when we add another capital that is also coming from another bank, we're looking at around $20 million as a total investment.
It's very rare that I talk to somebody who talks big numbers. You are talking about big dollar amounts here, and it's exciting to hear a young African talk in those terms. What does this mean to you?
The way you followed me from the time when I was still young to see that we are able to push through this thing. With the money coming in, we'll be able to see that we inject into other assets. I told you when we went to Asia, we went with the stove designs. We did product development in stoves. But we have other responsibilities, obvious. I don't think it's only the job for the government to create jobs, opportunities. It's up to us for entrepreneurs to be able to transform. How do we create philanthropy to our communities where we're serving? So we are looking at, we have actually already also finished other assets already in terms of product development like fridges, electric kettles. We have done microwaves in various industries, close I think up to 10, which we have concluded. So we will be seeing a future where we see that we invest into other assets so that we can create more jobs, we can create more opportunities, our countries can become more resilient and be able to tackle just the challenges that we are going through as an African continent. And we're happy that government has stepped in, and we're not alone in this journey, obviously. We have so many other people also who have been doubting. We believe also it's a wake-up call that they will be able to see that it can be done. So it's indeed a dream, yes, for me, for the country and for the continent.
Terrific stuff. Arnold Nyendwa is the founder and CEO of Lusaka Besta Afon. That's our tech reporter. Back to you, Esther.
Great segment, Paul. Be sure to join Paul Ndiho each Wednesday for another tech segment right here on Africa 54. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.